How you doing, Internet? I'm B-Nut, and today we'll be looking at the Armour Girls Project Tamashii Mix, Monster Hunter Chi-Wo Ankoku, the Someshi Kokushoku no Ryuki, as it's listed on Ami, or simply the Kokushoku Ryuki, as it's listed on HLJ.com. Boy, now I know why they simply call it the Gore Magala, as that is the creature from Monster Hunter that this design is based upon. I got this figure from HLJ.com, HobbyLink Japan, so thank you guys, and also thank you to Sid Sked, who will be traveling and leaving HobbyLink TV. He did wonderful work on the show, and your Gaijin Gunpla blog has also helped me to choose which Gunpla I want, and you've also given a lot of helpful tips as to assembly, so thank you and good luck. I hope you the best in your travels. Now, the thing that grabbed me about this immediately was this box. I mean, look at it. Not only is the art absolutely beautiful for this absolutely beautiful figurine and was going to be based upon, but look at the sheer size of this thing. And Bandai is not known for using space without reason, so getting this out of that box from postage in the first place, it immediately said something about what was going to be inside. And it hit me again because, of course, I had seen the accessory listing on the websites. So let's just take a look here and compare it to the SH Figuarts Ranma girl type. It's thicker, it's also wider and deeper. The Robot Spirits Lancelot Albion. If you get them two together, they're about as wide as the Gore Magala's box is. This one is a little bit deeper, I think. A standard Figma size box. The Figma box is taller and a little bit deeper, but it's certainly not as wide. The impression that I got in comparing these boxes is that this one is most similar to a standard high-grade Gunpla box, but it's taller, it's wider, may not be quite as deep, but to me that's an expression of exactly how much you're going to find in this box. And you do get a lot here, starting with some assembly instructions. And these unfortunately are not in English, however, they are useful in discovering what's in here as well as how to put it together. And so you have a bow for the dress, a cover that goes behind the bow, the tail section, two wings, as well as the weapons. You have the swords and a connection piece so that it becomes a bow. You have the different option pieces for her limbs, armored and unarmored, the umbrella mace, different sets of hands, and while you're switching things around and putting stuff together, what I can advise you to do is when you've got the little peg and the slot, as you do here with the tail and the bow, what I would advise you to do is to trap the peg part between your fingers so that you can actually hold them in place, and then you push gently but firmly in order to get the tail into the bow for the dress. And press firmly until it goes in all the way, otherwise it's just going to keep on popping off. Right now you're looking at Gore Magala as I like to display her, with parts that show the different limbs and how they compare as well. You've got the umbrella in hand as well as both swords in bow mode, and her tail in behind. And even though I've got her standing on the stand as sort of a base, I'm not actually even using it at the moment because she stands just fine on her own. I've also got the monster mode head with the horns and fringe, and the neutral expression. That's a little bit better. So that's her neutral expression face, as well as both monster hands being used just because they're easier to get a grip with. As well, you get 4 other optional expressions, one looking off to the other side, one exasperated, like I cannot believe these adventures, one scowling or shouting, and one just grinning her face off because she's just won something or fooled someone. And then you have all these optional hands as well, open and holding, as well as relaxed hands, and those are for her normal, more human form. That's probably not normal for a monster. Plus you've got a nice effect part for her bow. Now this right here is a closed hand for her normal hand, as you can see it is quite small and would be quite easy to use. Unfortunately, Bandai doesn't give us anything like a Figma band or rack of hands that would make it easier to keep track of. However, we can also make do. This is also the normal fringe piece, and in order to switch those around, you just pull them out. You can switch it on, and if you wanted to switch the face as well, that's pretty much standard for any such figure. You just take it out, get the one that you want, such as the grinning face here. And I find it after I remove it from the camera entirely. And then put that back in, and that's how she looks with her normal hair. And you can also see that it's hiding one eye, making her a little bit more mysterious. And to replace one of these, just pull it off, leaving her with kind of a stump. There's, by the way, where my other normal hand is. And if you don't trap the joint like I was talking about, it does move around quite a bit. So trap that up. Sometimes wiggling it on helps. And there we go, that's on. So switching the limbs around is fairly easy with this figure. It's one reason why I like it. You also have these slightly grabby monster hands. This monster holding hand, the other monster leg. See how different that is from her more human leg, not only in the foot, which goes from platform pumps to high-heeled claw boots, but also in the armor design, which I like. And the armor design also carries over it. You can see it in the dress and the skirt, and it also comes from the basic monster form that this was based on, if you recall. And this one looks like a very elegant high boot, though. And her other monster arm over here as well. She also comes with this plain clear plastic stand, which you can use to pose her with. I think it would be useful for aerial poses, and it's very, very bendy and graspy. Although I haven't really liked this kind of stand, which Bandai usually includes, because these things tend to pop off. And what these are for are the arms, which I will also show you later. And the funny thing is that you get 3 sets within here of the neck and the holding claws. I suppose you could use them if you needed spares, However, for the most part, you don't really need it. And unless you're trying to be really expressive with this figure, you probably don't need the stand, period. I mean, I've been leaving her on my shelf without the stand, and she's perfectly fine without it. Though the arms occasionally do droop. So let's talk about the figure itself. And what we have here is, I believe, an elegant, clean sculpt using some very dark colors. And something that you can pick out almost immediately about this figure, at least with the dress on, is how the frills and everything have been emphasized and picked up. And it all comes across to a very, very detailed sculpting. It's a look that expresses certain elegance about the character, even though it's based on a monster and therefore there is no such character within the Monster Hunter franchise. And so it's kind of a shame that there is no such character, and it makes me wonder if they will ever create any such one. Because if they do, then I would watch that anime or I would play that game. And this is a figure that was very well thought out, so it would be a real shame to waste that concept, in my opinion. In one of the accessories, you've got this elegant umbrella, which is well sculpted and painted, but has no practical purpose because it's so small. And you can open it up like that, and then switch the side that the opening is on, and it becomes a mace of sorts. And you can also shoot Gore Magala's breath attack from there if you do that. And then you have the bow, which is also a sword. And if you want to use the effect part with it, what you do is, this is off of her hands though, so it would be a little bit different if you were to put it in the hands. You look for the notch, notch that in, and then use the hooks on there. It slipped out. But even then you probably get the basic idea with this. So you would put that in and then slip that into her hands. So I've not got that in one hand, but the other one isn't grasping it right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off that hand and put on a graspy hand. That would actually stick on. There we go. You have to push it in a little bit more. And then make it look as though the claw is grasping it a bit more. And as you can see, it's a little bit awkward because her arms aren't that long. But as well, it's also awkward because she has trouble turning her head so that it can look like she's actually aiming the thing to shoot it. But you can sort of finagle and do it. Of course, this doesn't come as a bow, it comes as a sword, and you can separate it back out. You can actually see the tracks that the centerpiece is attached to. So you take that off and backwards and they both slide into their slots there. And then you've got these two very jagged, very toothy looking swords. And now they slide into the hands like that. And you can have her wielding them fairly easily, something like a berserk. And even though they're a little bit loose in these hands, you can still get some pretty good poses out of them. If you're not using them as swords or a bow, they can be stored into this slot here, and they just slide in. What you can do to make that easier on you, because they will poke you, is to slide in the handles first into that up part, and then it's like that. And you can turn the tail around. This, I believe, is so that you can tuck that part of the tail underneath her, and then these become sort of like they're part of the dress itself. And this dress part, for what they call frenzy mode long skirt, is definitely an integral part of this figure. But it's also not just a dress, of course. You can see in the box behind, it also becomes raging frenzy mode. And though I prefer to just call them dress mode and, I suppose, raging frenzy mode, it basically becomes like a wyvern's arm with the wings on them, as opposed to a dragon, which has the wings and arms as separate parts. To do that more easily, I've now taken the dress off of the main figure, and now you can see the big difference in length between the normal mode leg and the armor mode leg. It's actually significantly longer, as well as being bulkier and, of course, sharper. Watch yourself on those points. You can also see much more easily the main figure's sculpt. It's got that hole for the pegs in her back. So you use the same peg on the dress as you do back here in order to get her up onto those. But there are some big differences between those limbs, and what happens because of that is that you can get some completely different looks out of this figure, which makes it so that she's much more playable, and you also don't get tired of her easily, so you're going to get a lot of value out of this. So now we've got the skirt on its own, and you can see the way that it's sculpted for all these different things. I'm going to get the tail back out, and hopefully you can also see the tiny peg there that the tail is connected to. That gave me a lot of trouble at first, and the cover has come off, so you can connect that onto the stand as well to have her up if you need to. But most of the time you don't need the stand on, so you can use the cover. I'm just going to put that there for now. And here you have the bow can go up and down a bit, and it is significantly loose. You have the tail, which you can move, and underneath the skirt you have the wyvern arm. And something else that I appreciate here is the difference in the sculpt and paint between this part which is supposed to represent the scales and hide of the wyvern, and this part, the dress part, which is supposed to convey the character's elegance. So these are two very different aspects, but they do belong to the same character. So I'm now going to attempt to transform this into full Wyvern Frenzy mode, Raging Frenzy mode, and I have to admit that I haven't done this very often because it can be a pain getting it between the two modes, simply because if things don't line up properly, then it doesn't look all that great. But you can sort of get an idea that you're supposed to flip things out so that all the armor parts are up. That will pop off. So what I'm trying to do is to get these up. And the fingers. And the thumb was facing backwards, so we have to face it forwards. And there are all these joints here. You have a ball joint down here where it connects with the palm, and you have the hinge halfway up the fingers, so that you have at least a semi-functional hand there. And then you have the hole there that you can peg another part of the accessory in here, and I've got it on this side. There's a little hook that you can use in order to have the arm holding this. So that's kind of cool too. And you can play with this in order to make it look more aligned. And I'll definitely have to play more with this because it keeps on sagging, and that's where the stand can also come in and help you. And here I think I've got it pretty close. If you see this coming at you, I think I would prefer to run. And before I attach this onto her back again, I just want to try something out real fast. One thing I've noticed is how similar in proportion these two are. And this is the Figma Asuna from ALO 2. Bandai has made a very similar size, I think, figure. So kind of, sorta, but not really. I think most of the problem here is that there's lots of stuff getting in the way. As if you notice, this peg here is attached to a significant portion that goes on the back first. And this helps the dress and the wings get away from the curve in her back. You could potentially give these wings, or something like that, another back accessory to the Gore Magala. Doesn't quite fit, and I have to find that fringe again. And also, unfortunately, that has broken off the head of my Figma stand completely, so I wouldn't recommend actually trying that unless you're very, very careful. But since I have, I wonder, what does Asuna think of these arms? I mean, I've already gone this far, I may as well go to completion. They don't really fit her image, but they can go on her back. And unfortunately, that bow is pretty high there as well. I guess that's what comes of the original having the attachment point so low on her back. Here, they aren't. But it kind of does work well together since her coat is preventing the arms from sagging further. And if I straighten out her legs a bit, oh, but that's much more back heavy with her than it is with the Gore Magala. Well, you sort of get the idea. You wouldn't want to be in her way either. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find a way to glue that back on or something because Asuna doesn't stand on her own quite so easily as Gore Magala does. I'm not ready to call that one a complete failure yet, but well, depending on how well that glues back together. But I have something else that I would like to try putting on her back, and that is the backpack from the Powered Powder, which I used to modify my Super Fumina. And this one is much more solid than it was even on when I tried to put it on the goo for a 35. Yeah. So she's compatible with that, but the Figma stand was a little bit iffy. That was in there quite solidly, but still pretty easy to remove. So now we're going to go back to the monster arms. And we're going to sneak that in the back. There goes the fringe again. I suppose while you're switching things around, you kind of may as well just leave the fringe off. And then you can put it back on after you're done transforming. And as you can see, those arms are not sticking up for me. You have the stand. So even if you're not going to use that to stand up the figure itself, you can still rest the arms in here somewhere. Oh boy, that came off, didn't it? Into something like that. So I'm not using the back stand at all, but you can still get these arms, and I've got this one sort of on the part that's for the peg a bit, but you can kind of see how that works. And then if you wanted to, you could as well attach this to her back and maybe get her a little bit airborne as well. Since I've got it there, I may as well clip that in. And that works kind of like that. So that's pretty cool too. As soon as I said it, I wanted to see if I could do it, and yep. The stand can support her weight very well, so you can get her into an airborne pose. Though what I have in mind more for that is less of with the arms and more with maybe with the bow, so I may try that again later after the review. And you can see there is a lot which you can do with this kit, or with this model. And it holds up pretty well. It's got all of these moving parts, and it may be a bit fiddly to learn, but it has absolutely no problem once you get it into whichever pose that you want. So that's pretty good. Speaking of poses and posability, you've got all these bends in the arms and the stands as well as the bends and swivels in the arms. But what about her? After all, this is the main event. So I will now go over the figure's articulation, and since I set it up with the different limbs on, I can even compare that for you. So the head goes down that far, up that far, the hair goes kind of up like that. Actually, mine isn't as flexible as I've seen some others. I've seen some others complain about that fall out as well. Can turn this way, that far, that way, that far, so not very far. But combined, you can make it very expressive. With the monster arm, and actually I think that's telescope the shoulder has telescoped out, and I never actually managed to get it back in like that. Goes up that far, all the way around. Maybe a bit too much, I can't see it anymore. Up that far, and all the way around. Bend at the elbow, and bend at the elbow, and as I said, hit. Oops. Continuing on with this, we have ball joint and swivel. We have some rotation here around the chest. We have, because that can come off, and there's a ball joint there. We have very, very tight hip rotation. This leg goes forward almost all the way. This one, pretty much the same. Side, almost not at all. Side. I wonder why. This one is going, oh, there we go. It's just tight. And back. As much as you would ever really need to. The dress is nice and flexible there, so you can get whatever motion you want out of it. Rotation, the same in both legs because it occurs at the attachment point. Knee bend, I think it's a single joint. Knee bend. And at the foot swivel and slight tilt. Forward all the way, backward all the way. And of course, rotation, which is in human. So slight ankle, not really even there. Back all the way, forward all the way, and rotation. So the articulation is basically the same for both sets of limbs. It's also very good, so you can get basically whatever pose you want out of this figure. Apart from the head. Before I go, how about one or two more comparisons? Here is that SH Figuarts Ranma. And how about another armored girl from Bandai, my custom Super Fumina, the Star Wish. Significantly larger there, and she stands almost comparable to a master grade. So the Gore Magala comes with some excellent accessories, great articulation, its sculpt and painting are on point, excellent. I could not ask for more in the looks department, at least. But if you were to ask me, would I buy it at the current price, I would probably say no. But can I say that Bandai has validated the price point with everything that they've included, and not everything is on here because it's over there. Has Bandai given a reason for people to spend somewhere around $100 without shipping on this item? Probably yes, they have. But it's not enough for me to spend $100 on this. So I was very glad to get this on sale, and if you can, I would advise that you try to do the same as well. And as you can kind of see here, I've tried to get the Wyvern arm into position to get the bow, but it's too long, whereas the other arm here is a bit too short. But you can finagle things around, get them into the kinds of poses that you want, and do basically anything with this figure. And there are certain points of compatibility too with other things. Just be careful and try not to break anything while you're playing with it, because that would really be a shame. And now, the only part that I don't have a point of comparison for this is the frame arms girl. So, you know what I'll probably go after next, right? Of course, transferring all of this back is a bit of a pain, but you can do it. Just ensure that all these are lined up properly, and you should have the figure looking fantastically elegant once again. So thank you all for joining me. If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe in order to show your support, and you can comment in the comment section below whatever you thought or make any requests, and I hope to see you in the next review. Bye bye!